We're talking about one of my most anticipated games of the year, and I think I can speak for the room. One of our favorite games of the year with Marvel's Insomniac's Spider-Man 2, Davey.
Yeah, one of my favorite games ever, if I'm being honest.
It's fine.
You
I'm totally joking.
You shut your face, Craven. If I want to hear you talk, I will shove my arm up your ass and work your mouth like a puppet. We're dealing with Insomniac Spider-Man 2. We're dealing with several years after the original game. Miles is applying to college. Peter Parker is starting to become a teacher. And little do we know, Craven's come to town looking for his final hunt. In the midst of all that, you also have introduction of the symbiote with Spider-Man's Black Suit arc, which is one of the greatest arcs in all of the comic history, and the introduction of Venom, which is a great character in his introduction, which writers have continually managed to fuck up.
Yeah. Tom Hardy, gotta love him.
I have a love-hate relationship with the Venom movies, but you have a phenomenal cast here of characters with, of course, Yuri Lowenthal playing as the voice of Peter Parker. You have you have Najee Jeter, who plays Miles Morales. Both of them reprising their roles from the previous games. You have Laura Bailey, who's playing MJ. You have one of the bigger characters, Graham Phillips, who you might have seen in Ben 10, Race Against Time, the live-action Ben 10 movie. And
way back.
I remember that.
Was also on The Good Wife, playing Harry Osborn, who is making his debut in this game. And, of course, you have the motherfucking Candyman himself playing Venom.
Oh, my God.
Tony Todd.
My heart.
And of course, I think one of the kind of underrated performances of this, which is James Peary, who plays Kraven the Hunter. He played Angelo Bronte in Red Dead Redemption 2.
Oh God, okay. I did not know that. That's awesome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and
that's awesome.
And just to get to the positives about this game, it's like, if you could list every single kind of improvement that you could, as far as the traversal, as far as the platforming, as far as moving throughout this world, Spider-Man 2 absolutely fucking nails it. Just the introduction of the web wings, being able to actually turn a corner while you're web slinging, being able to gain momentum and speed. It feels so much faster than it did in the first Spider-Man.
They say he's teamed A.
And getting to do all of this, and all of that is shown off beautifully in this opening mission, where it ostensibly serves as an extended tutorial. And as far as openings of games go, it's pitch perfect.
Oh hell yeah.
I will say too, I love hearing white people talk about black people's hair.
Sure
There's nothing. People going "What's up with Miles' hair?" It's because our hair is amazing.
Real quick, banger incoming.
Or 5 or whatever.
Oh God, Earth Gang! Shout out Earth Gang.
If the principal comes back and sees I'm gone, I'm gonna get fired. I know, but you gotta see this.
Yeah, the music in this. Oh goddamn.
Yeah, this opening, it's you couldn't pick a better setup for two Spider-Man side by side. It was
and now you're playing the game. It's so good.
Yeah, it's seamless, and Insomniac does that really well with both of the Spider-Man games. With all three of the Spider-Man games, if we're counting Miles Morales,
which we do, and
yes, we 100% do.
By the way, people, you'll pay $40-$50 for a season pass, but Miles Morales isn't long enough.
I mean, y'all paid $70 for Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3.
Oh my god! And
Y'all pay $70 for Madden each year when EA constantly goes.
Yeah, but somehow Call of Duty feels more egregious.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
I
but
played that. I
treat yourself
played
better.
So, full spoilers. Are we allowed to dive in?
Yeah,
or-
we're doing full spoilers in this review. Enough time has passed. Enough people have played the game.
Okay.
Clips are on YouTube.
So I'll say, as someone who, like, I read my first Spider-Man comic when I was 4.
Mhm.
So that was 32 years ago. Oh God, I'm old. This is a top 4, maybe 3 Spider-Man story, because I would imagine the Insomniac pitch was like, man, that Amazing Spider-Man 2 movie is really bad. Yeah, it really is. So, okay, what if we take that and we put it in a blender of Kraven's Last Hunt, but we tweak a couple things and then pull from other stories and we make that, our story. And I'm sure Marvel's like, all right, we feel like you'll fuck this up, but sure. And they're like, oh, no, we got this. Because there are about 8 different chances plot-wise where I'm like, oh, if you had gone this direction, the story kind of falls apart. And they just keep making the right decisions. It's like, God damn, you guys just get how to make this character work. There's a side mission with this group setting fires, and you're kind of like,
yes.
You're like, oh, that's interesting. And that whole payoff of it being Cletus Cassidy, you're like, oh wow, they found an actual organic way to put Carnage in here. You're like, God damn it, Insomnia. Like, and they just keep constantly doing that. I would say for myself, the side missions have never felt more rewarding than they were in this game.
Yeah, and that's something that I felt like was a huge improvement, also from Spider-Man Miles Morales, as far as adding to his character, but also here, it's like a lot of the side missions, they are kind of very kind of tertiary, but you get so much emotional payoff with a lot of the side missions, like this whole mission where Spider-Man is like trying to track down this woman who's lost her grandfather, and the whole cutscene is you just sit with him as he's recounting the story of how he proposed to his wife, and it's what makes a character like Spider-Man so great. It's because he is just this friendly neighborhood guy. His whole mission is just help out his community, no matter what kind of shape that takes.
Totally agreed.
And that's something that I felt, they did better in Miles Morales than they did in the PS4 game. And they carry it over into here.
Yeah, you took the words out of my mouth, because I love the emphasis on Miles's little community that he has in his game. And they bring a lot of that into this one, especially with because of course you have 2 Spider-Man, so Spider-Man has missions that are like individual to Miles or individual to Peter. And a lot of the Miles ones, they bring that over, like the one where you have to collect these instruments that have been stolen from the African American Music Museum, right? Something like that. The payoff for that as well is just so amazing. Insomniac basically lets you sit in this museum and learn.
And it is not just seeing Rio Morales in that dress, which
no.
Yeah,
she can get it in every universe.
Every universe.
So the one complaint I have about the game is apparently if you play the that mission with the Harlem Museum, if you play the game in Florida, your PS5 just shuts down.
But does not compute.
Yeah, just like, oh, why did my screen go black? But it's black. But but that was such a rewarding side mission because it actually makes you read through each panel as far as what the person did as far as in the museum, which I was like, oh man, if you're a Trumper reading this, you're like, fuck you, Insomniac. But but it was so cool to see our culture represented and actually learning some shit. And there's a really cool
shit I didn't know.
Yeah, and there's a really cool Marvel Easter egg in there as far as the Howling Commandos, which I was like, oh, that's clever. And
it's like, you didn't have to do that, but thank you.
And that is where I feel like Insomniac really shines because there are so many Easter eggs in here, but they never feel like there's like like you never feel like they're stopping the game to put this Easter egg in. It actually feels organic to the flow of what they're presenting to you. There is a there's a Doctor Strange, like straight up.
Oh,
like,
that whole side mission,
that is
that
perfect.
whole mission with where it's a chase scene involving Black Cat, and you're playing as Miles, and that entire segment, that is some fucking keto.
Honestly, like it's one of those things where you're like, I can't believe you found a way to organically weave this in. And when you get to the end, you're like, oh wow, so now Doctor Strange exists in this universe. And and there's
I mean, Avengers Tower is like right there.
I mean, true, but you do think, I mean, because I mean, with the amount of different Avengers rosters, you're like, who's on this roster?
And even canonically in Marvel Comics, the Avengers are kind of a useless organization as far as like the day-to-day shit.
Oh yeah, they go after the big fish. It's like,
come to us when Galactus is here, okay?
Yeah, it's like, oh, like Shocker's robbing a bank, whatever. Like we'll say, like,
I got something else to do. Come on.
Yeah, but it's great. Like as you like taking a step back, because I got the game the day it came out, and I remember telling my partner, I'm like, you have till 4:30 to be ready, and I'm playing this goddamn game. So you need to. And so I was playing it, and our cats were actually watching. They're like, holy shit, this is cool. And the opening Sandman sequence is such a mind fuck in the best way. You're like how, because
it is basically a boss fight that would be the third act in any other game.
Exactly.
And it's
they got a war. Like this opening, I felt like God of War 3. If you remember that opening, fighting giant Poseidon.
Oh yeah. And you're just sitting there like, okay, you're pulling it. So this is where I always tell people, like, I try to hold on to getting like the next generation of the system for as long as I have, because I don't feel like you always need to just go out and buy the latest thing. This is a game where you go like
this is you
couldn't do this on the PS4. Like you have
the PS4 would be on fire right now.
Yeah, and I actually played with my
PS4 would blow your house up like a Tesla.
Right. Nice. But I was I had my 3D Pulse.
Just as far as like graphically what they were able to pull off as far as this little segment that's kind of made the rounds.
The big
I'm trying to find the quip.
Should be right coming up here, I think.
But but I was playing with the 3D Pulse headset on, and being able to hear the 3D sound of the screams and all this shit. Like, it's like, oh my god, this is so fucking cool. Like it's well worth investing in a PS5 to have this fucking game. Like,
and and it's also that added benefit of you can actually buy a PS5 in stores now.
It's not it's just gone.
You don't have to, you don't have to pay the resale price like I did.
Right. And also,
to be fair, my re-enlistment bonus had just came in, so I had the money for it.
Well, that's nice at least.
Not even mad at it.
Yeah, and just like this, you're traveling like several city blocks and not even a dropped frame at all.
No,
nothing.
Like because I played the game straight through, and I had one point where I like clipped into a fence. That was it. That was like my one glitch that I actually.
I mean, I ran into the kind of infamous spider cube glitch. Times where,
I've heard about that. Yeah.
After you play for like several hours straight through, and then at one point, if you go in the pause menu, both characters will turn into a cube.
Nice.
But all of the animations still work otherwise, as far as like the combat and the like web wings.
Go ahead, Brandon.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, like, you two were lucky enough, like you guys got this before me, so like I had to suffer through both of your reactions of how like awesome the game was.
Hey, that first night it came out, I was on duty, and my parents were coming up to visit that weekend, and they brought my niece and nephew. So that I was dreading it. That entire next day, I knew I wasn't going to have a chance to play the game. So I had to suffer through 2 goddamn days of not getting able to play it.
Oh yeah, I was posting in the chat. I'm like, oh my god, and everyone's like, God damn it, Hunter.
And meanwhile, I was like, I'll kill you.
Yeah. Like I had to wait a week to get this game, but like the anticipation, like it's still completely delivered. Like, because when did we hear this game got announced? Like what? It was 2020?
Right after the first game.
Okay.
It got announced, but we saw our first look at it, I think 2 years ago at Comic-Con. And then the first gameplay reveal came out last year.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Well, I still remember clicking on the first trailer, and you hear you hear Tony's voice, and you're just like, oh, and you're like, oh shit. And so I remember I played that. I was like sitting up in bed and I played it. And and I play it, and my cat actually hissed at the screen. He's like, "What the fuck is that?" Like, when Venom pops up, it's like, oh shit. And admittedly, as a Spider-Man fan, I think we can all acknowledge, like, there is that part of you that's like, oh, they're doing Venom, but they could also rely on Venom way too much in the Spider-Man story of it. And I think for me, the thing that really caught me off guard in the best way is the pacing of this game. Because once you get out of the tutorial, it just ramps up a little bit. Like every hour, it just ramps up a little bit. Like you get stabbed by Kraven, you end up getting the symbiote. You're like, okay. And one thing I really do hate when Peter does get the symbiote is I feel like they make him standing up for himself feel wrong. You know what I mean? Where it's like at points where it's like he's actually standing up for himself in a practical way, but it's like, oh no, it's a symbiote, so it's bad. And
that feels like a gross oversimplification.
Hey,
because Peter had done it in, even in the first game, but here it's like this man was on a goddamn warpath in this game.
You didn't let me finish, dude. Right? But so it kind of plays that trick on you at first, but then you get this little microaggression towards MJ, and you're like, okay. And then you get another one to a point where the suit he flat tells her, run, like Bray Wyatt style, like get the fuck away from me. And you're like, oh no, that's not good at all.
And speaking of improvements over the first game, because of course there are segments where you play as MJ and having to do like more stealth missions. They did a lot more to like make those segments exciting. At a certain point in the last one, turning her into the Baba Yaga.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
MJ is packing in this game.
MJ stood on business.
I found myself like really enjoying the MJ bits, and it could just be like me, like fresh, like from finishing like Resident Evil 4. But I was like, I could deal with more of this, please. Especially like
I still haven't finished Resident Evil 4 because I cannot get past that Ashley mission. It's like, fuck this, I'm out.
Oh my god. Well, that is the one to stop.
Well, it's frustrating too because like you played through like the first Spider-Man game, and it's like those MJ missions like almost slow the momentum, and you're
no, they don't slow the momentum of the game. They stop it right in their tracks. Much like Godzilla.
I mean, I'll say for myself, I think the later missions do a better job given the context of like the demons and all that, but. Yeah, those first couple I remember just being like, oh man, this does feel like you're kind of halting me for the sake of halting me. But she's really important in this game. And and when she gets the symbiote, that is such a heartbreaking boss battle. And you're just like because it's kind of, like the symbiote's kind of like when you're drunk in the sense of you may not want to say the shit you're saying.
And I always felt like the symbiote story always worked best as a metaphor for substance abuse. I feel like the Spectacular Spider-Man animated show, they did that really well. And if you didn't get that in that show, they are very explicit with it in here.
Yes. Like it's very clear as far as what the metaphor is. And the thing is, like, what's so fascinating about this is that it deals with so many Spider-Man tropes of the sense of like revenge is a big thing in the Spider-Man lore, and Miles really struggling with the fact that someone, this person killed his dad.
It's like the introduction of how Martin Lee is utilized in this game, who was one of the main villains of the last one, which is Mr. Negative, who's played by Steve O. Young. I thought their segments of this is like, I felt like this game, so much of it is focused on Peter that I really wish that the Miles side of the story got as much weight and as much development as it did. But everything between him and Martin Lee, I thought was pitch perfect.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say I see your point there, because that was like one complaint. Like I saw like when people talk about Spider-Man 2, but like maybe I didn't really feel that, because I did like most of the missions where you could do like either Peter or Miles for the side missions. I was always doing Miles, especially when like Peter got the symbiote. It kind of just made more sense in my head story-wise.
Thank you.
So like I guess I kind of get what you're saying, like how it does feel more heavy-ended on Peter's side, but like if you're playing it with Miles doing more of the side missions, then you kind of get that even balance. But I definitely see that kind of complaint.
That's kind of how I feel about the people complaining about the runtime, where it's like, if you play the game nonstop for 5 days, then you're going to finish it quicker than someone who only has 2 hours a day to play it. Like, I mean, myself, I stretched it out over like 10 days. I was like, let me just kind of like take bite-sized bits of this. But there's a point where, in the back third, where the game just ramps up in a way that it went, okay, I'm gonna kind of finish this because I need to know how this wraps up. It's
like the game is telling you, like, don't stop.
It's
like
that
symbiote. It's like, we gave you a taste of that.
Yes, you want more, right?
Going.
But
Craven.
So I will say too,
oh my god, that part.
As a not like. As someone who really, I wouldn't call myself horror buff, but someone who appreciates horror, there's a lot of horror elements in this that you're like there's one jump scare straight up where Spider-Man's hanging from the ceiling and Venom pops up behind you, and I was like, God damn it! And like
even like right before, where you're kind of exploring a lot of these underground tunnels and the lights go out, and all of these symbiotes pop up across from you, and this is after you get the anti-Venom suit, so it's like you could kind of stand a chance,
but still.
So let's talk real quick about Harry, because one thing that's one of my favorite most complicated relationships in all the comics.
He is probably the best character in this. As far as like his arc in this, he is one of the most fascinating characters in this, because it's a very different Harry Osborn that we usually see. Is like a lot of the versions that we get, especially in the Raimi Spider-Man movies and the Andrew Garfield films, and even in something like Spectacular Spider-Man, there's always this like air of arrogance to Harry Osborn. There's always this like very entitled brat kind of way that all of those people have portrayed that character and how he's written. And here, he is that kind of like pitch perfect. If we had a guy who had all of this money with the actual like moral center to use his gift for good, even like in his introduction, he's talking about this new foundation that he wants to start about healing the world. It's so genuine. And even he talks about it's like, my dad footed the bill, but I cut my salary so we could get the best people here, so we could do more.
Yeah, if it's interesting. If you cut out the arrogance from Harry Osborn, he's basically Spider-Man the Animated Series MTV Harry Osborn. Like he's very much in that.
Good. That's good.
He's very much in that vein, because like he loves Peter, and you can tell like he genuinely loves Peter like as a friend and respects his opinion, and asks him like several times, like, dude, this for the foundation, what do you think? And like there's a scene, no shame in my game, where I just started crying where they're riding bikes together, and it's such a simple thing, and you're like, this is so fucking cute. It's like
and that whole flashback mission of the two of them in high school, and this is after Peter has gotten his powers.
Yeah, and you're
It's
just like,
perfect.
wow. And it's such a genuine, it's coming from such a genuine place. And even Norman Osborn like
Mhm.
feels less scummy as a mayor.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
whenever he's around, you're like, oh wow, like Norman is cool. And but it's very similar to X-Men First Class, where you're like you're waiting for that shoe to
You're
drop. It's
wait
like like the
you're
shoe
waiting
has to
you're waiting
drop.
for the shoe to drop, and you know that Venom is coming. And the game does such a good job of, making you dread that moment, even allowing Harry to become Agent Venom at one point.
yeah.
Yeah.
I was
And
going to
their
say, like, I
whole
love that.
that whole dynamic and that whole like couple 2 missions that you get to play with as Spider-Man with alongside him. And even when you're as Miles Morales, and because there's this cool thing in the city where you're free roaming, and if you're stopping crimes, you can run into the other vigilante characters. Like you run
Yeah.
into the other Spider-Man, you
Yeah.
run into Yuri Watanabe, who's Wraith in this game. You run into Agent Venom during that segment of the game.
Yeah. I was going to say, like, I was very hesitant going in, like,
Mhm.
because it was one of those situations where, like, Harry is going to be Venom. Like,
Mhm.
they weren't telling us, but they also weren't hiding it,
Mhm.
because there's no Eddie Brock
Yeah.
in this game. Spoilers, no Eddie Brock.
Yeah, and even
But
story-wise, it wouldn't make sense for Eddie Brock to be
At
No.
all.
in this.
to introduce a new character like that would be very weird for this
Yeah,
game, for this story.
and this whole kind of moral dilemma that Peter is forced to in the third act of this game is like, my friend is dying. This is the only thing that can save him. But if I let him live, he will wreak untold havoc on the world.
Yep.
Yeah. And
And
oh, go ahead, go ahead.
I was gonna just say, to Hunter's point earlier, like, you feel that emotional, like,
Mhm.
relationship between, like,
Yeah, it's like
Harry
the
and,
way
like,
that
Peter.
even in the third act, when it's I'd say one of the better boss fights in the game as far as like emotional stakes, because you fight Venom first as Peter, and then you fight him as Miles, and then there's cutscenes in between where Peter is just begging Harry to stop this.
Yeah.
And
And,
it
like,
is a heartbreaking performance. And shout out to Yuri Lowenthal, because he deserved best performance in a video game off of this role, because he is so phenomenal. And he is off of the strength of this. He is one of my favorite Peter Parkers
oh, without a doubt, like,
in
he's probably my
any
favorite.
medium.
He might be my favorite. To be
I think he's
honest,
mine. I
like
think he's mine, honestly.
I've been like thinking on it, and I'm like, because my point of reference is always the Fox animated series, because I love the Fox animated series so much. But as I've been like, because I went back and I replayed, I've been replaying Miles Morales and the first game. By the way, I will give Insomniac their credit. While I still am not thrilled with the creative choice, Peter Parker's face, because it's actually like not remastered, it's actual like render of the character.
The
How it's
original
supposed
one.
to look.
Yeah, the original model, I think it was a different actor, and then they did it in the remaster to someone who looked a little bit more like Yuri Lowenthal, so it was kind of easier to map that performance. And even in the remaster on the PS5, it still is a little jarring.
It
feels much more natural.
Yeah, so I gotta give it up there. But even just these inflections in his voice, like, because at first it's still very much like, hey, I'm Peter, but as the symbiote starts to take more hold, you get this more gravelly like tone to their voice. There is straight up a scene where they go ahead and they're chasing. Yeah, they're where they're chasing the lizard. And Craven has like his crew like chasing the Spider-Man, and there is this coldness to Peter that actually gave, like, my partner looked at me, she's like, I have goosebumps right now, because like because like he straight up is like, oh no, he's like, Lizard is mine, and Miles like, no dude, I can help. He's like he's got big teeth. He's like, so do I. And he just swings away, and you're like, oh, okay. And even the fact that he has a civilian, and Peter just throws him down on the ground, like care at all. It just goes like, fuck you. Like, throws him on the ground. You're like, and just these little subtle things, and like even like this way he hangs up on MJ when she calls to just see how he's doing.
I was gonna mention that part.
Like
Because
just yeah.
You see a bit of it
like,
in
he-
Lowenthal's vocal performance and how much he had
Crazy wants a hunt.
from
I'll give him one he'll
it's
never
from the game
forget.
for reveal.
He's gonna wish he never came to New York.
Yeah, you're just like, oh
So
shit.
much more gravelly. It's like, yeah, it's like
Love that attack. Love that attack. Just
as
like,
much as I love Bully Lowenthal, Bully McGuire, excuse me,
yeah,
Bully Lowenthal is a goddamn menace.
agreed. Like,
he nails it.
It's like,
Um,
no wonder your family left you. It's like,
yeah, I was gonna mention that, and like the part where he hangs up on MJ. Like,
And
he
immediately
literally
it's like-
just hangs up on her to monologue to himself some more, just yelling at it. It's so good. Such a good scene.
and this is
Well,
what
the
we're
end of-
talking about. She saves the civilian. It's just like,
Yep.
Gets tossed
fuck
him
out
down.
my face.
Bye.
When he says we let him get away, I was
Yeah,
like,
the
oh
we.
no.
You hear that we?
I saved the tracker.
You know some stuff's up with that
Let's
we.
go, man, before he gets too far. No. He's mine. You sure? He's got big teeth. So do I.
You're just like, god damn. Like
Yeah,
it's
and
it's so good.
yeah, this clip reminded me a lot of reminding me of one of my complaints about it is that Miles kind of feels like he was tacked on in this segment of the game. I mean, he is vital to Peter's turn to get the symbiote off of him, but during this whole time, I feel like you needed to do a better job of establishing a little bit of kind of this because at this point in the game, Peter and Miles aren't on the best of terms. It's like Peter's kind of ignoring a lot of Miles's calls. This is after Harry has become Agent Venom, and he's starting to team up with him a lot more than Miles. And I feel like you kind of needed to have a little bit of that built-in resentment.
Yeah, no,
So-
I'm with you a little on that because when I wrapped up the game, I was like, I wish it was just like 45 an hour longer.
I
just a
wish
little
we
bit
got a
longer.
mission with Miles and Harry teaming up, and an actual like
Yeah.
story mission with the two of them.
Because we get that phone call with them where like Miles kind of gets where Harry is coming from.
Yeah, it's like it's like after Peter gets the symbiote and Harry is just kind of like, you know, I'm looking for something to do. How can I help? And
Exactly.
Miles kind of lets him down easy.
I think that's why MJ is so important because she fills a lot of those gaps between her and Miles. Because her and Miles talk quite a few times.
You're right. You're right.
Which is something that I actually really appreciate. So that's why I personally don't have that complaint. I think with Miles too, I think they do a really good job of putting Rhea in. As far as there's a point where Peter talks to her when he has the symbiote.
Like, excuse me?
And she flat out checks him in a way that
Like,
no one
wait,
else
medical-
does.
It's like I was expecting. It's like you find out that the symbiote has two weaknesses: sound and the chancla.
Right? I was like,
Fucking-
but it's great how she goes like, look, I don't give a fuck what's going on. Like you're working with my kid. You need to keep your shit together.
Keep
And
it
it was
cool.
like, yeah, and I was like, okay, I really appreciate because as a mom, she should have that reaction. And her kind of being more passe would have felt very disingenuous to what we know about her character. So I love the fact that's in there.
Especially because we got to spend so much time with between Miles and Rio in the Miles Morales game, having one of the biggest emotional tearjerkers of the scene of Miles coming out to his mother.
Yeah, that's a great scene.
Well, it's crazy too because the scene with Rhea like discovering Miles is Spider-Man, and then Aunt May discovering Peter, like the way the scenes parallel.
The reveal that May always knew in the parallel.
Yeah, that's always good. I love when they do that.
And I will say I love Aunt May, but man, she left Peter in a rough spot with terms of that house. Because
exactly, because I just bought a place and I'm looking at my monthly payment. I'm very fortunate. It's less than what my rent was at my old place. But when they showed that mortgage statement, I was like,
damn.
Like you feel for Peter immediately. You're like, holy shit, dude. Like, you have to
Like,
swing
Especially
this.
like he
I know-
just got fired too.
Like, I know real
Yeah.
estate in New York is expensive, but god damn.
Mm-mm.
Well, that's the thing too, is the game does a very good job of explaining to a very fair point why why Peter hates Jay Jonah so much, because Jay Jonah puts out this hit piece on him like early on, like when Peter's still
Mhm.
wearing the glasses, which that's a very old school Spider-Man look. I was really happy that was in there. I'm like, oh, look
Yeah,
at him,
right.
like look at him with like the Ellen
the
haircut,
hair.
and yeah,
Yeah.
like and the glasses, and he
Yeah.
he loses his shit in a way that's completely justifiable
Yeah.
with what Jay Jonah prints about him, and
Yeah, that whole scene with him and Aunt May, the flashback in the wall.
and the smiley face, dude,
Man.
that broke me right there. I was like, God damn it, game! I was like,
Yeah.
we're like an hour in, and you're already making me.
Yeah.
And but the game is filled with moments like that, where it just keeps
Mhm.
finding these ways where you go, wow, I don't know how you're effortlessly weaving this emotion in. One thing I love about the symbiote too is that it's very kind of much that drunk text conversation where you're like, okay, some of the shit you said, there's more truth to it than there needs to be. So there
Exactly,
probably
yeah.
weren't, because the shit that MJ is talking when she gets the symbiote, when she's becomes
She's not lying.
she's not. And it's one of those things where I went, shit, dude,
Yeah.
you need to talk about this, like
Yeah.
because when she talks about how, like, you know, it's always like I always come second between, you know,
Mhm.
Spider-Man and everything else, and you're like, yeah, you're not
Like,
stuck, you're not wrong.
even Peter knows she's right in that scene, because he's like apologizing profusely. He's like,
Yeah.
I'll do better, we could change it. Like, he's immediately trying to wrap it up. And just to your point, like the scene before that, before she gets the symbiote, and Peter's like had like, it's when he was operating, but like the symbiote was basically on autopilot for him. He wakes up literally like hungover, like, oh yeah, I had the best rest of my life.
Yeah, it's that classic segment where the symbiote kind of takes his body for a ride.
And
how much more savage it is. And it is, you know, if we're going on to, you know, more of the drug abuse metaphor, is like that bender you can't remember.
Yeah. And like the scene that follows after, where he like literally kind of is a piece of shit to Harry and MJ. He's like, why don't you pop a few more pills and tell me how you feel? Really? I'm like, yo.
Yeah, which all of that culminates into, and so much of this game is absolutely brilliant, but I think it absolutely peaks at this boss fight between Peter and Miles.
Oh my god, yes.
Oh man, that fight.
Yeah, it's so emotional, even down to, you know, the health bar at the top of the boss fight is it's not Spider-Man, it's not Venom, it's Peter.
Peter.
It is going into that metaphor for drug abuse that, you know, is like, as much as you know, as much as you want to be self-reliant, when you are in that low, you need people around you to support and to help pull you out. But at the end, it's not Miles who pulls the suit off, it's Peter. And it's like, you have to take that leap for yourself. And so much of this is like shit that goes hard.
Yeah.
And I'm like caught up watching this scene again.
I love the fact that that Miles points out, he's like, dude, you could have killed your partner, dude. Like he like, and keep in mind, this isn't even a kid who's graduated high school yet, and Miles is going through a lot. Like Peter's been Spider-Man for a minute, but Miles has been Spider-Man for what, like 18 months, probably tops, and he's, you know, and it's like I think we all remember how rough being 16 was in general, let alone being a superpowered being dealing with an alien and your mentor trying to kill you.
Add spider powers, your mentor's beating the shit out of you.
This shot right here.
So much of this dialogue. It's like, you know.
All I want is to save you. I'm the hero. I don't give shit.
That line.
Woo, so hard.
I go so hard.
Well, one of the things that people forget about with Bendis's run is that when the symbiote tries to initially take over Miles, it's not able to,
Mhm.
and Miles actually overpowers the symbiote.
Yeah,
And I remember a lot of people, racist Trumpers, being really upset that is like, why can't the symbiote like take overpower Miles? But it's like Miles is that strong mentally already, along with the Venom powers, which helps protect them. And so I was really happy we didn't get like that in here, because it there's easily a version of the script where Miles gets corrupted.
You get a symbioted Miles, and
Peter fight Miles.
I'm so glad. I'm so glad that is not the direction that this game took, because Miles is a very different character from Peter. He didn't grow up the same way. Miles grew up as a fairly like well-adjusted kid. He didn't have a lot of the problems that Peter did growing up.
Yeah, but what Miles is dealing with is the revenge aspect, which similar to Spider-Man 3, where he sees Martin Lee, he's like, oh man, I could just I could kill this guy right now. And
that whole breakout scene, he like hesitates.
The whole breakout, he hesitates to save him, and it culminates into this very beautiful moment between the two of them, where they're kind of in the negative dimension, and Miles has this moment with Lee. It's like, I can't forgive you. It's not in me, but I can't carry this hate for you anymore.
Yes.
Which honestly, people, that's a great message in general, because forgiving is not for the other person, it's for you. But the fact that he goes like, I need to move past this, but I can't. I'm not going to bullshit you and say like all is forgiven. It's like, it's a really powerful moment for someone who's not even 18 to have that realization. You're like, wow, okay.
Yeah.
And the way that Martin Lee gets into Miles's brain and kind of realizes, oh, I killed your dad. This is why you're so pissed off. That spilled chocolate milk, huh? But
and this very frank conversation between the two of them while they're kind of traversing Peter's mind. It's like, why did you do it? It's like revenge, and I kind of got blinded by it.
I mean, that goes into like the whole. I mean, at least one of the main themes in this game is like revenge and redemption. Like not just Martin Lee, we see a lot of villains kind of like redeeming themselves.
With redemption, we see a good justification about why Spider-Man is one of the few superheroes that has a hard "I do not kill" rule. It's because he believes in those second chances, and you see examples like that in the game. In a Tombstone, who is like one of the harder boss fights in the last game, and also in Mysterio, who is played by Nashir Dawal in this game. And
those side missions kicked ass.
And that side mission does such a good job of playing with our expectations, because we know something is off with Mysterio, but when the reveal comes, it's like, he's actually just trying to get by.
I mean, it even goes earlier,
and it adds to making Kraven this such menacing presence, because he just straight up kidnaps Kurt Connors and forces him into becoming the Lizard again. All for his selfish desire for a hunt.
And off several rogues where you're like, oh shit.
And by Scorpion.
And the way that they actually do. So Kraven's introduction is one of my favorite introductions of a villain in a game, because from jump, they're like, he's not fucking around. There is no plans of grandeur. It is straight up, I want my last hunt. I'm dying. Therefore, like everyone gets to smoke until I'm gone. And like when you see the amount of research he's done on everyone, you're like, oh god damn, this explains how he's able to off Scorpion, how he's able to off Shocker, how he's able to Vulture, like in the trophy aspect too, like is very Dexter in the sense of it's like these things aren't being hidden on display in a room, like you can see all the people I killed, and it's like, wow, okay. And
which on one hand, I'm kind of sad that we didn't get to recreate the "Get back here, Shocker!"
That's fair.
I'm kind of sad that we didn't get to recreate that meme, but I'm also kind of happy because out of all of Spider-Man's rogues that Kraven has killed at this point in the game, he gives his props to Shocker of all people.
Yeah. I love
Yeah.
it.
Yeah,
And like, oh no, what were you gonna say?
Oh, I was gonna say, so I know Nick said, like, I think emotionally the peak for him was the Peter Miles boss fight. I think the MJ Peter boss fight is where I was just like,
Oh.
I was like, this is breaking my fucking heart.
It's like,
because, like
it's going into that substance abuse allegory where it's like it's things that you want to say, but you're kind of trying to find the right words to say it of, just being a partner. This is the things that bother me, and just having all of that blow up.
Yeah.
It's like this is why you can't get a job. You can't pay the mortgage. You broke bitch.
Yeah, like it's like goddamn. Like, but
it's been building up.
I love those memes of it's like POV your neighbors with Spider-Man.
So that is probably the most comic book thing about the game. You just have to acknowledge, like, if you're Peter Parker's neighbor and you see Spider-Man fly through the, you know, you just have to go, like, like
either he's fucking Spider-Man or he is Spider-Man.
yeah. Or you guys are into some amazing cosplay kink, which
right.
like Wizard Con. I'll see you next year, baby. But
exactly.
But that fight in particular, and it's so cool that you're able to use like car alarms and stuff like that to fuck with the symbiote and give you a chance. Like it's like those moments are so cool and so key to the lore. For me, I think the last boss fight, out of all three games, I don't really have a favorite because they all work for me in different ways. Because I love like I would say if I had to rank them, I think the last Venom fight's my second favorite. I'd probably go the Miles one first because the Tinkerer final boss fight is just like it's just it's so depressing because you're just like, God damn, if you guys could both just find this balance. Like, it's like, but it's very much in a way that teenagers just, you're right around the corner.
That's how they're gonna
being
act.
there, and that exactly, and you're more emotional when you're 16. You just don't know how to quite get there. But the way that Venom is talking shit to Miles, like, oh, I remember you said that, I was a burden to Peter. You didn't think I remember that, motherfucker? And Miles like, oh shit, I did say that. Like, look, man, like my bad. Like, but the way that the symbiote is able to take this knowledge, which is comic canon, from each of his hosts, and go ahead and kind of manipulate the situation, you're like, oh yeah, that is a thing the symbiote does, and it's so well. And then you get the Venom wings, which I was just like, oh,
man.
Insomniac. I was like,
I saw the
you
wings.
get it. Same.
Like, thank you. I was like, I took like a screenshot immediately.
But just going back through a couple of things, the web wings we talked about a little bit. I thought it would be good. I had no idea I would love the web wings as much as I did. I was like, this is fucking game changing for the series. But then also, the fact that Peter took Doc Ock's technology and used it to make himself a better fighter.
Yeah,
that's a very Spider-Man thing to do. And I'm just like, oh my god, these people have read Spider-Man and how he's gonna incorporate this shit. Miles's new power set is so fucking cool. It's like
I was using that more than his old one.
Same. I was using the like the electric. I was like, this is fucking cool.
It's so cool. And just like with the strength of the last game, it's like Insomniac does such a good job of introducing these new elements and making them relevant to the story. It's like all of the side missions that you get, they have a basis in the main story first. Every single special skill, every new ability, all of it ties into moments in the story, and I feel like that makes it more rewarding in a sense than just having all of that straight out.
Agreed. I will say too, the skill tree is overwhelming in the best way because there's just so much shit you can unlock, and it's like, oh my god, where do I even where do I even fucking start? But I will say I definitely powered up Miles quicker than I did Peter, because there's a point where you just get the symbiote and
it feels like you don't even need to
the game is just like, oh, you're basically It's very hilarious how much these Insomniac clearly was like, man, God of War is a cool game. Can we use like our own version of like rage mode? And because that symbiote rage, oh my God, it is just
every time you use it, it is the most satisfying satisfying thing in the history of one of these games. It's like it made it hard for me to like, you know what, maybe I'll go back and play Spider-Man 1 for a bit. It's like,
man,
yeah, I can't.
Dude, I tried after this and I was like, why am I so slow? This is so
like,
weird.
You're yelling at Spider-Man. I was like, not my fucking tempo.
Pretty much.
Well, it's kind of like how
like so fast.
It's kind of like how when I played, like I remember, I love the game still. I love Batman Arkham Asylum, but Arkham City is such a jump in like combat and like the gadgets and everything. And you're just kind of like,
yeah, and even as far as like gadgets and combat, going from Arkham Origins to Arkham Knight.
Yeah, that's a big one.
That too. And one thing we haven't mentioned yet is like when you're doing side missions as one Spider-Man, sometimes the other Spider-Man will pop in and help you out. And it's such a subtle feature, but it's like there are two Spider-Man in New York. So like the other one wouldn't just be.
I think even I think it is a feature in the game. I don't think I've seen it in all my playthrough, but even when you're just kind of like free roaming and web slinging around, you'll like see them like somewhere in the background or in the cityscape.
Yeah, like it's great, like these little details that, you know, like other games would just kind of go whatever. Also the amount of side missions, like we've talked about like certain ones for Peter, certain ones for Miles, but like even being able to like actually pick up a civilian and take them to the hospital, like that's very that's very Spider-Man 2 original game, like the movie game, and you're just like, oh, that's awesome, like that you can do shit like that. There is a side mission that I did with Peter involving a side character from the first game.
Oh, with Howard.
That straight up, I had
Howard, which was one of my more annoying side missions in the first game, and it carried over into the second one with having to chase the pigeons, and that got an emotional rise out of me.
I had to put the controller down. I was just like, cool. Now I'm crying again. Thanks, Insomniac.
Thanks, game.
Yeah, right. You sons of bitches. Like,
make me emotional.
Oh, the spider barrage is so fucking great with that.
The spider arms, it's such a cool feature. And some of it was to give Peter also a skill tree alongside Miles. And if I had one complaint about this game, it was because the spider gadgets played such a big role in the first game, where they played so much into stealth and the combat. I feel like with the double skill tree here, it took away such the emphasis on stealth that the first game had. And with so much of this, you could just like go in guns a-blazing, where in the first game it's like, okay, you actually had to have some strategy about this.
Go ahead, Brandon.
You want to? Okay, I was gonna say, I'm the exact opposite, because I was like, you mentioned being overwhelmed earlier, and like when I replayed the first game, I forgot how many gadgets there were in that like big ass gadget wheel. Yeah. So like I really enjoyed that they condensed it in this, like give you like main gadgets that you use.
Same.
And these are the ones that you're going to be upgrading and using the whole time.
I guess I'd say that I kind of miss the variety of the gadgets. Because you're only stuck with 4, which none of them were in the first game. So where's the sense of progression? It was like I wish we had like the web mine or the impact webs from the first game. Or
impact web was my fave.
Or the web bomb from the first game.
Impact web, I will admit, would have been nice. For me, I felt like so I'm not a big stealth gamer anyway, so I'm always just kind of like I'll go in guns blazing and be like, all right, I need to just deal with the consequences.
Wow, you should definitely not play The Last of Us.
Yeah, perfect. But I will say though, I died a lot in this game. Like I was playing not the hard difficulty, but the one below it. I don't know which. I don't know if that's
probably amazing, spectacular.
I played this.
I think amazing.
I think I played this on ultimate, which I think is the highest difficulty.
Yeah,
because like right after the introduction of the hunters, I was like, Yep, fuck this. I'm lowering it.
So
man.
yeah. I will say I probably died. Goddamn.
I wish there was a death
times
counter.
easy. There were points I was just getting my ass whipped, because there's a point where there are these symbiotes that you have to dodge, like you can't just straight
Yeah,
up punch.
you
them.
can't punch them. You have to dodge them. It's like,
And those,
they gang up on you. It's like they jump at you.
and it's just
Same
like
with the
God
ones you have to
damn
like
game.
parry too.
So that was the other thing I was going to bring up. The parry system, it definitely took me like an hour to get used to it, because it is a little jarring at first. You're like, oh, I can't just dodge. I have to. Okay.
You have to parry.
Yeah, that lizard fight too. Oh boy, that first fight kicked my ass, because I was like, oh, I have to parry. Okay, fine. But goddamn, once you get a hold of it, it is so rewarding, especially when you get the symbiote or the anti-venom costume.
Yeah.
I was really struggling though, like during a lot of the boss fights. Like I really felt like this was a challenge. And I was like, goddamn game, okay. And even my partner was like, you didn't die this much on the first one or Miles. And even she was like, wow, you're actually getting your ass whipped. And it's like when I finally beat Venom for the first time to get back to the center or whatever, to the Miles fight, like I beat him by a hit. Like he whipped my ass like 9-10 times in a row. I was like, God damn it, game. Like, but it's like, good, you're actually challenging me. That's good. I want this.
Yeah, this game feels
I think
like
that's
a genuine challenge. Even all of the new enemy types that you get, all of these like little like Craven hunters that kind of like hang around in various like ledges that you have to like web up in order to find. It's a new challenge that I felt like it's a huge improvement on from the first game, because I feel like a lot of the enemy AI, they eventually just kind of devolved into being the same types, just with different skins.
Yeah, not the case here. There's a lot more variation.
Totally agree. Like, I think, just to both of y'all's points, I think this game is definitely more challenging than the previous two ones. Like we mentioned, giving bosses a life bar is like a big thing, because that was not a thing in the previous two.
No, it wasn't. One thing I do love too, and I it's a mechanic that I was like, oh, I didn't think I love this as much. The slingshot option to go into the web wings is just, you feel like a king when you do that shit. And you're able to just like zoom across the city. You're just like, oh my gosh. Speaking of,
and you can and there's a fast travel option in here, and it's almost kind of like useless.
I never. So that is one thing. Like as a game, I never used fast travel.
I only did it when I was trying to 100% the game.
That's fair. I'll say for me, the wind tunnels is so goddamn cool. You're just like, you're like, you can the web wings are enhanced by this, but the slingshot system, like you feel like it's the most I've ever felt like Spider-Man playing a game.
It really makes you feel like Spider-Man.
Yeah, like it really does. And I will say the Craven like hunter like bases, those are intense. Those are hard. It's like, it's like, okay. But what I love about this game in particular is that the side missions actually make you play better for the main game. Like like there are certain missions where you have to like hunt down or chase like one of Craven's drones, and it makes you get really quick at like webbing.
It makes you get really good. It makes you get really good at using the web wings.
And it's like and so doing those missions first, I found myself as the game went on, I was like, oh wow, I'm moving a lot quicker than I was in like hour 5. It's like, oh okay. And there's so much of that. And like when I did go stealth, because the game kind of kicks your ass in the sense of like, you don't always have to use stealth, but you might want to use stealth to take down like 4 or 5 people before 20 show up. And I found myself going like, okay, fair enough, because there's that ability to like form your own web line, which I didn't realize how useful
I was gonna mention.
Dude. Man, that
you're talking about like the slingshot, but like the web line is one of those things of like, how has this not been in previous Spider-Man games before?
Well, because it's in the like Arkham games.
Exactly, but like it's one of those I wish was in the last 2 Spider-Man games, because I actually enjoy doing like the stealth in these ones.
Yeah.
And like the web line just gave me more of like a push to always do stealth when like entering like a base or something like that.
For bases, it's kind of essential. Like even if you're not
It
going,
really is.
yeah, even if you're not going stealth the full time, but like Craven introduces these like robotic like hounds, like Mr. Burns would be envious, and like if there's like 2 or 3 of those in a spot, you're kind of screwed if there's 15 characters there too, because like it makes you feel kind of like what's that that one zombie game with the motorcycle I'm totally blanking on the name of. Days Gone. Days Gone? Is that it?
Yeah, I think it's Days Gone.
Yeah.
Or like you feel like the hordes are just like encompassing you, and you're kind of like, oh shit, this is overwhelming. Because I'll say I use Miles's electric like blast thing so often when I was in a pinch. I was like, okay, I was like, there's 15 people. Fuck this. It's like, let's clear out the room. And it's there's a great side mission for Spider-Verse shit too. Like the game is overwhelming